safe to say you've all heard of Sonic, correct? It's probably a good thing to hear that you have, because if you didn't, you're probably living under the biggest rock known to man. Throughout the early to mid 90s, Sonic was a nearly unstoppable force in American pop culture, getting many Macy's Thanksgiving Day floats that kept getting destroyed, food items and toys with his face slapped on it, as well as the public's general recognition through an iconic appearance alongside an iconic series of games. While characters like Mario helped set up the foundation for many great platformers to come, Sonic helped bring a new sense of speed and style to the genre that propelled it to a whole new level, which is honestly why I grew to prefer his game series over Mario's, despite his more consistent quality over the years. Regardless of what you think of the franchise nowadays, it's hard to ignore the huge lasting impact that Sonic has placed on both the platforming genre and gaming culture as a whole. Thanks to his cutting attitude and 90s flavored edge, he indirectly helped characters like Sony's Crash Bandicoot, Ubisoft's Rayman, and hell, even goddamn Namco's Klonoa come out swinging the way they did. Barring the last one, unfortunately. Though, like with any new idea that comes into public mind, there will be those that attempt to steal from it and call it their own, or in some cases, deny any credibility it may have garnered. Even through the rough years, Sonic has managed to keep his head above the clouds, keeping his integrity intact through animated flicks, re-releases of past games, and a new take on the formula through, you guessed it, a brand new game. Despite the looming 2022 titles currently shaping itself, I'd like to take the time to delve into the titles that made Sonic, back in the days where the third dimension can only be dreamed of and gaming was kept to the nerds and not Hollywood reps trying to make a buck. More specifically, I want to talk about the 5 games that will be making up the yet to be released Sonic Origins collection, that being Sonic 1, 2, CD, 3, and Knuckles. Think of this as an all-rounded video, so to speak, as it will delve into not only the creation and development of each title, but also a few kinks and marketing techniques that help to stand out from all the rest. I'll try and throw in a few tidbits that I haven't seen discussed too often to help keep this different from the endless sea of other Sonic game videos. This series means a lot to me, so I hope that some of even the most knowledge-filled Sonic fans could get something new out of this. With all that being said and done, let's start the game!
TV.
Origins.
アメリカで大活躍のスーパーハリネズミが日本でも大暴れ。その名はセガソニック・ザ・ヘッジホーグ。メガドライブで待ってるぜ。
Now let's start with the one I think you all know fairly well. Sonic was created in the early 90s as a way to give Sega a flagship franchise to compete with the likes of Mario. There were several designs for the hero submitted amongst the company before settling on the one we know today, including one based on Theodore Roosevelt, which developed into the evil yet lovable Dr. Robotnik, and animal types such as a dog, rabbit, and even a porcupine, all which would serve the series well in the future. Naoto Oshima, the soon-to-be original designer and artist for the Sonic series, was the man to strike gold in the mines, with this design for Mr. Needlemouse, or Mr. Hedgehog as it is correctly referred to, serving as the template for Sonic's creation later on. The series co-creator and programmer for Sega, Yuji Naka, would then take that idea and implement it into a series of prototypes for a new platformer with a major sense of speed, using an algorithm developed to move sprites smoothly along a curve or slope, as demonstrated by nearly every 2D Sonic title to date. Naka's initial prototypes were peculiar to say the least, as due to him not having an idea of what the character would be at the time, they mainly featured this blue spear rolling through a long tube to simulate spinning and sliding across the ground to maneuver through an area, which constructed both Sonic's spin roll and his iconic spin dash. A lot of the early concepts contain ideas that would be revisited soon after, including Sonic joining a band, getting sharp fangs, and even getting a human girlfriend named Madonna, who was most likely influenced by the singer of the same name. All of this, combined with an aim towards the wide audience of America, was showcased to the higher-ups by a pilot with hedgehog-like hair. Soon enough, this would give us one of gaming's greatest and most iconic characters of all time, that of which being Sonic, Maurice Hedgehog.
I thought your middle name was The.
To show the world who Sonic was, both Sega of America and Sega Japan took very different yet similar approaches to showcasing his character. His home country, Japan, would market him as a free-spirited teen in an animal body, with color following him every step he went, eager to share his adventures to those who helped follow the Mega Drive to the cash register. Overseas, he was a much more bratish, egotistical rodent than he is perceived nowadays, his colors and overall appearances being much sharper and edgier, practically shouting to pick him over that loser Mario. His personality in both nations were modified slightly from his Bill Clinton-inspired attitude to better suit the demographic that was being aimed at to, you guessed it, sell more copies in both regions. Preference is pretty much a matter of which one you feel aims best towards yourself. For me, I've always found Japanese classic Sonic to be the one that defines Sonic the most in my eyes, especially as someone who grew up around the rise of the modern era for the series and saw that appearance become the forefront of classic Sonic moving forward. Moving along to the game itself, there's a lot to be said about the changes made during its development. Seeing as it is his debut title, it has to be hiding quite a bit of unused content during its experimental construction. Speaking of which... Yep! You're seeing that right. First level in, the game devs almost went straight for your throat. For those who don't know, this moto bug in particular was only supposed to be in the remaining screens after you started running rather than being on the first screen, allowing for the possibility for you to be killed right before you even start moving. Akin to the Super Mario 2 title screen, where this Koopa Troopa nearly lands a hit on you, ending the game before it even starts. To rub salt in that open wound, there were supposed to be these little wrecking balls scattered around opening acts and zones that'll basically be able to kill you in one hit if you're not careful enough with them, before being scrapped entirely. Just goes to show, things could have been way worse than they are right now. Anyways, as is true with a lot of levels found in Sonic 1, Green Hill Zone was much duller and realistic in its color and design, as found within a few screenshots on EGM for an unfortunately lost build that was shown off at the Tokyo Toy Show of 1990. The mountains take up a lot more space in the background, and there were about 7 layers of background scrolling, and there's very minimal object animation compared to the retail version, alongside a welcome sign for the beginning of the level. The decision to go to a more vibrant and fluid style was likely due to the team wanting to showcase the true potential of the Genesis, as well as computer graphics as a whole, to a wider audience of people within the first few minutes of the game. And boy, did they accomplish that, as it took them around half a year through several redos and prototypes to come to the iconic level that we see come up time and time again. For better and for worse. Several other zones would soon follow this exact phrase, especially Starlight Zone, which lights up like a festival in some areas. Within these prototypes, we can see a lot of changes made, both big and small, to most of the stuff outside of gameplay, such as the flowers in Green Hill Zone, UFOs in Marble Zone, and outright different titles for Spring Yard and Scrap Brain Zone, and even a press start prompt on the title screen that was fixed in the Mega Games 10 release in Brazil. One of these special quirks tucked in the files that never made the final cut was Sonic's swimming goggles, which was speculated to show that Sonic would be able to hold his breath underwater without having to use air bubbles, obtained either through an item box or other special means, though strangely no snorkel to behold. Sonic's underwater countdown timer was initially placed due to Yuji Naka's belief that hedgehogs weren't able to swim, and with that belief, added in considerably one of the most anxiety and stress-inducing mechanics found in any video game. There was only one real Bannock discovered to be scrapped in the NTSC and PAL codes, called Splat, a trampoline bunny that hops on an attached spring, who ended up not making the final cut until the 2013 Taxman and Stealth mobile port, which featured them in the debug mode, and in a certain game in 2017 that makes very clever use of them. After the states got their fair share of the Sonic Mania, it took about a month for Japan itself to follow suit in their country, allowing them to make small, yet deep-cut changes that they couldn't have done at the time with the NTSC and PAL releases. For example, the clouds in the title screen, as well as in Green Hill Zone, scroll much faster from right to left. And Labyrinth Zone, as well as Scrap Brain Zone Act 3, have a ripple effect in their water, which would be later used in Sonic CD thanks to the enhanced screen drawing and deformation routines. In addition, it also includes a revised version of the level select order, going in regular motion rather than the pre-release listing, as well as a revised point system that allows you to gain an extra life for every 50,000 points you've played on Japanese hardware. Speaking of Scrap Brain, did you know it was the only zone in the game to have a different background for each act, as well as having no opportunities to go into special stages or have a score tally in its final act? VRAM back in the days was pretty limited compared to the present. Should be grateful we came so far. Carrying over most of these changes, Sonic 1 had the luxury of being the most ported over game in the series, spanning over 10 consoles in the 30 years it has been around. The most notable one most people point to is the Christian Whitehead 2013 mobile port, which added numerous features, such as time attack, new playable characters, and enhanced widescreen, with the only drawback being its absence on home consoles. This year. A full-scale port was set to be released on the Amiga, but was canned possibly due to disagreements with Sega and porter US Gold, with the only evidence of it existing residing in screenshots found in an Italian gaming magazine known as The Gaming Machine. The Sega Saturn would soon get its own port of Sonic 1 around 5 years later with the oh-so-rare Sonic Jam compilation, with many of the changes including the spin dash, remade sound effects, and difficulty levels, which alters layouts on normal and even outright excludes levels on easy mode. There was also one on the GBA, which heavily crunched the screen and included slowdown up the wazoo, making it the most abhorrent and unnecessarily upsetting Sonic port known to man. Up there with the 7 deadly sins, next to sloth, gluttony, and greed, therein lies crappy emulation.
ソニックが新しい仲間テイルスを連れて帰ってきた。前作を超えたスケールとアクションで息もつかせぬ面白さ、超ハラハラ超ドキドキの超音速アクション、ソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグ2 Welcome to Sonic Land メガドライブから世界へ向けて。
With the formidable sales from the first game's launch, it was known from the start that Sonic would be getting a sequel game. That sequel, of course, strived to be much bigger and faster than its predecessor, both in terms of gameplay and marketing, with Sonic Tuesday being a huge example of this. For most fans, it accomplished exactly that, with many regarding it as the best game in the series, thanks to its improved level design and near-essential features introduced that would later define the franchise as a whole. To make sure that it appealed to the core audience that helped skyrocket sales on the Genesis, Sega Technical Institute in America took the helm of development, while Sonic Team worked on their own continuation to the series, which was released around a year after STIs would be finished. The difference in teams was honestly a huge one in terms of aesthetics and presentation, as most of the attitude found in US Sonic's marketing and appearance seeped its way into both regions. This can be most easily seen within Sonic's sprite going from 1 to 2, as he got a much brighter shade of blue in his fur, and his eyes and stomach appear much more rounded. For this game, we were introduced to the first in many of Sonic's friends, and arguably his best, Miles Tails Prower, a fox kid with the power to use his mutated 2 tails to soar into the skies. In later installments, after he was relegated to being a clone of Sonic. Designed by Yasushi Yamaguchi, his name was a deliberate pun on the term miles per hour, and thus the nickname and real name was split up between regions, with Yamaguchi's preferred staying in the east, and the simple and iconic name adopted for the west. Before the infamous Easter egg found within the amazing 2017 Sonic title, he has always been Sonic's rightful companion, should the player choose to have him so, which, really, did you think you had a choice at all? With a face like that? Come on, man. With this new buddy, however, came a much richer development history, as Sonic 2 went through arguably way more prototypes than Sonic 1 to get to the retail release that we all treasure today. Right off the bat, we can already see many of the changes made to the title screen, which somewhat resembles the Game Gear versions by a small margin. The only difference are that it's unanimated and displayed over a grassy background, rather than a side view of West Side Island in the final release. Tails especially looks a lot more ruffled than in the final product, which it's his first day on the grind. I'll cut him some slack for now. Anyways, I'd like to bring light to a story about how the following Simon Y prototype for Sonic 2 was first brought to the public eye. The aforementioned Simon Y said that he found the ROM for it on a public Chinese GeoCities site, where it was soon brought to the attention of the Western Sonic fanbase as far back as 1999. Unfortunately, that's not the full story, as in 1992, Sonic 2 was showcased at the New York Toy Fair with an unfinished copy meant to drum up hype for the game's release later that same year. However, due to the aforementioned hype for the game, the cartridge used was stolen and used as a MasterCard for bootleggers to pass off as the full game. Could you imagine games getting leaked like that in today's age? Oh, Switcher, look at that! Someone just managed to leak Half-Life 2 right after we just got done presenting it to the world. Guess we'll have to speed up our production to make sure that our game looks nothing like that unfinished build in time for the holidays next year. Wait, that actually happened? You mean to tell me I set up this joke to have the punchline be something that actually happened when I never knew it actually happened? Okay then, well, back on topic then. The assignment, Why Did You Have to Steal from a Children's Toy Fair prototype, contains a lot of later cut and incomplete zones that would be better implemented in further versions. In Genocide City Zone, you'd simply be transported to a glitchy pit of death, but gathered from concept art, it was supposed to be this dark, brooding, single-act graphical change to the pre-existing Metropolis Zone, as confirmed by Tom Payne, the man who was in charge of art for this zone. He later went on to say that the team wanted the name to sound dangerous when brought to the English audience, given that the previous name was Cyber City. Even with that change, it ended up getting scrapped entirely before work on it started, and had the concept forged into Metropolis Zone Act 3, making it the only zone in the game to have 3 acts for that same reason. It's also a big reason why the slicers became the bane of everyone's existence for nearly 3 decades, but I digress. There are plenty of other zones that got the cold hard boot while development progressed, but there are some that managed to overstay their welcome enough to be passed on to either ports of the game or to other games in the series entirely. Some examples of this include the Hidden Palace, Wood, and Sandshower Zone, the latter of which we'll discuss how it's referenced in a little bit. Hidden Palace Zone was an underground water-themed level that had a strong media presence before the game's launch, which made it very popular amongst the fanbase due to its shrouded yet fairly well-known mystery, which allowed it to gain second life in the 2013 Tackman and Stealth mobile port, after jumping into that weird bottomless pit and Mystic Cave Zone. Wood Zone, despite being partially playable within the Simon Y build, didn't see quite the uprising and following as Hidden Palace did. And with that, not a whole lot was avenged in later re-releases, but a concept of it serving as a past day casino night zone that was chopped down and forged into it, and found via time travel, which we'll get into later, was kind of sort of reused for classic Sonic's Casino Forest Zone in Sonic Forces. Take that however you may, but please remember, it's nobody's fault that Wood Zone wasn't tough timber! Before I talk about the next game, I want to briefly touch upon the arcade ports for both Sonic 1 and 2, as they differ quite a bit from their console counterparts. There are 2 different versions for each game, a Mega Tech version and a Mega Play version, each with their own kinks and quirks to properly separate each other. For one, the Mega Tech version is most similar to the Mega Drive release, since the cheat codes for both are still operational, but it uses a special time limit to keep players moving and keeps quarters coming, as it requires credits to keep it from consuming your run altogether. The Mega Play version is a lot more forgiving overall, as the Sonic 2 port ditches the time limit, and both of them outright remove certain aspects and zones out of the games, but in turn makes finding lives and continues much harder to come across, as the point thresholds for lives becomes much more steeper, and continues are obtained through credits since special stages are no longer a thing in both ports. Thankfully, you'll get the best ending if you complete them either way, so maybe, in a way, it's for the best.
Mega CD 究極兵器メタルソニック最速にして最強のライバル出現がソニックを熱く過激にする過去へ未来へ超音速アクションは時空をも超えた Sonic the Hedgehog CD from Mega CD.
You know, they say there comes a time in everyone's life where they gotta learn not to break easy. Well, seeing as how the CD is still more powerful than the cart, I beg to differ. Despite it almost being an enhanced port of Sonic 2, both in terms of development teams and the improvements that were made over Sonic 1, there is a striking difference in how it handles Sonic's main trait, his speed and momentum-based platforming. That difference, of course, being the time warp mechanic, which allows you to transport yourself to different versions of the act you're in to trample robot transporters in the past so that Little Planet may see a brighter future. Since this is activated by running at a fast enough speed for a long enough time, designers had to structure the levels to better fit an environment that allows for sandbox-style speed building. Though many still argue today whether this game is truly worthy of the same status as the main trilogy, I admire what it brought to the table for the Sonic series, and how it tried to be different since they pretty much knew it wouldn't be competing with Sonic 2 whatsoever. At the end of the day though, I still believe it's one of the best titles from Sega's rather lackluster library of Mega CD games. Although it is considered a black sheep of the classic Sonic era, it introduced a lot of elements and characters that would soon become staples of the series itself. One of the most notable additions that reflects the statement perfectly, is the definitive Metal Sonic. The very first rivalry to Sonic's blinding speed created by Dr. Robotnik in an effort to one-up his plans from the past, which, depending on which ending you got, was for the better or for the worst. There have been countless amounts of different versions of the Blue Bomber, such as the faster and slicker Mecha Sonic and Sonic & Knuckles, a more Sith Lord-esque approach with Neo Metal and Sonic Heroes, and even ones that predate him in the form of the large, bumbling Silver Sonic in both versions of Sonic 2. So, needless to say, confusion among different versions is heavily justified. There's also Amy, who serves as a big role reversal for most fantasy love pairing, serving as the obsessive fan with a heart of gold, dashing for the strong, independent Hedgehog who don't need no woman, no sir! Let's dive into probably the biggest changes that most people noticed right off the bat looking into the more recent releases. The soundtrack. More importantly, the fact that there were some small key differences interlayered between each region. We got two completely different OSTs. The Japanese OST, composed by Naofumi Hetaya and Masafumi Ogata, was influenced a lot by house and electronic music of the time, blending it with the already vibrant and colorful zone themes from Sonic's past to make an extremely unique and fun sound that perfectly captures the mainstream American musical revolution in game audio format. Now, if I told you that the American release for Sonic CD was delayed by 2 months, only for it to take out that soundtrack to make a brand new one that carried almost none of the previously mentioned fun elements, and instead replaced those same elements with mildly upsetting and downright disturbing import tracks that almost none of attempt to capture that American field swing that could have easily fit into both regions like a white glove on a hedgehog, you'd probably be just as confused and as alarmed as I was finding this out back in the day. Though thankfully not every track received that egregious of a change as some may think. There were a couple that managed to have new tracks that were equal to their eastern counterparts, and some that even stayed the same through both regions. One major example of the former would go to the amazing intro sequence animated by Toei and Junia Studio. Which, can I say just how amazingly stellar this animation work is, especially for something made in Sonic's early years, even compared to some of the newest stuff Sonic has gotten in terms of animation. The style, the camera work, or lack thereof, the smoothest butter flow from scene to scene, all blending into what I believe to be the definitive Sonic sequence. The best part of it all? Both regions got totally amazing soundtracks to it. I won't play them here due to copyright issues, but whenever you can, give your ears some time to listen to Sonic Boom and you can do anything. They're both absolutely godlike tracks. Or as it should be correctly referred to as... Alright, now onto some actual secret stuff in the unused content. For this section, we'll be taking a look at the sound test menu, as it contains loads of screens that hint and point towards unused content for the game, as well as just being separated in its own little bubble of scenery. You can unlock this sound test menu in the Taxman version by playing the special stages in time attack mode, and having the grand total of time being lower than 4 minutes overall. Or, if you want, you can unlock it immediately by pressing down, 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 left, and right on the control pad, then pressing the A button on the title screen. Don't quote me on that, though. It's a tough task, but for those who've previously beaten the game, it might be worth a shot. First, let's take a look at this cute little picture you can find of Sonic, with the message, "You are cool" by Sanchanzu, written by Masahiro Sanpei, the previous designer for Sega. Nothing really major to note, but this would be the first time we see Sonic with eyes other than the black ones he had in the past. Foreshadowing? Next up is this hot and funky fresh artwork by Kazuhiyuki Koshino, parodying the hip-hop craze of the late 80s and early 90s, starring Sonic and Metal Sonic duking it out, rap battle style, while Robotnik brings the beats. Messages in English can be found reading, "The fastest DJ, MC Sonic. Can I kick it? And come on, bad boys." Latter being written on Robotnik's DJing setup. Next, let's take a look at some actual unused stuff for this game. In one of the screens you can find Tails with a Lotus Super 7 with the above message reading, "See you next game!" This is of course in reference to Tails' absence in the Mega CD version of Sonic CD, as the team wanted him to play a bigger key role in Sonic 2, while CD focused more on other new characters. Thankfully, not all was lost, as the devs managed to squeeze this in to tell players that, yes, our little yellow fox boy would live to shine on another day. Also, in the PAL version and in some prototypes, you could even plug in a second controller and doodle on it through an edit mode. Aren't these game designers wonderful? Remember that sand shower zone I mentioned a few moments ago? Well, if you enter a code on the Taxman Porto CD, you'll find, unintentionally, that elements of this zone were going to be used in a totally original zone that was set to be packaged with the remaster, Desert Dazzle. Like the last screen, this was supposedly used as a way to say that the zone wouldn't be totally lost as time and space, and elements would be used sometime in the near future. You can all see how that ended up by taking a look at Mirage Saloon 6 whole years later. Now guess exactly what is behind this screen that can be found in a mode unlocked by clearing special stages. You guessed it, another special stage! This one seems to be a bit different than other ones found in the game, as it doesn't feature seizure-inducing backgrounds like a few of them, which to most would seem like a much-needed breather. There's a bit of a twist, however, as it is much more difficult than other levels, and you get almost nothing out of beating it, other than bragging rights, of course. Oh well, still cool to see this bonus special stage either way. This next screen, however, I would say is far and away from any cool level out there. Yep, you're seeing and hearing this right. This isn't some weird Sonic crappypasta fanfic screen cap or some mental art experiment, though it could easily be the latter if we're going by Mr. Mario Head over here. This is legit in the Sonic CD code, fully accessible through normal means. I don't need to be the one to explain the confusion on how this could have possibly slipped through the cracks and ended up in a GA-rated title, but here we are. The text, when translated, reads out, "Fun is infinite. Sega Enterprises, Mazin." The Mazin part was speculated to mean Satan, since it matches up with the word Majin, which means demon, but I for one think it could be a short version for the creator's name, Masato Nishimura, seeing as the Maz matches similarly up. What makes this screen even creepier is the inclusion of the boss theme while it's displayed right before your eyes. For my fellow Americans out there, you pretty much already heard how terrifying the boss theme we got was alone, so pair that up with the texture all over the screen of a dark Sonic with a pouting human face, and you've got yourself a spicy nightmare sandwich. Although thankfully, people over in the East didn't have to suffer like we did, as the US boss theme didn't carry over to their side since it wasn't even made at the time they got it. Instead, they got the funkiest shit in the world. Oh, and before I forget, this Batman parody is really cool too. Alright, I'm out of here.
Sega issues an all-points bulletin. The suspect is known as Knuckles. He climbs, he catches major air, he chills the reggae, and he's going head-to-head with Sonic.
Introducing the world's first backward-compatible game, Sonic and Knuckles. Play through 7 zones plus bonus stages against all new enemies. And it doesn't end there. Lock on your Sonic 2 or 3 cart and transport Knuckles to hidden levels in your old games. Sonic and Knuckles for your Sega Mega Drive. Printed at your video store now.
Now it's time for the one you've all been waiting for. For arguably one of the biggest and most beloved titles in the series, it's only natural that it would contain some of the most undiscovered content within the series. Like the sequels made before, it introduced a lot, with a capital lot, of new elements that would become series staples soon after its release. Like file select and save data, differing abilities and paths for specific characters, and even transitions between zones. There's even an improved multiplayer mode with new and better modes, stages, and characters, taking advantage of the Genesis's hardware in a similar manner to the single player, making it a much more competent effort than that of Sonic 2's. One of my personal favorite new inclusions and an obvious fan favorite would have to be Knuckle, the adorable who can spider up walls and do the funny cuckle rather than flex his muscle, his one singular muscle. He'd later show up in other titles, some even giving him a lead role, such as the Sonic Adventure games, and even in Smash Bros. Ultimate, where he's a special assist trophy that can be summoned to kick ass and take names, but most importantly, take games. He's a really cool dude, and it's a shame that later titles wouldn't make better use of his and Tails' characters after 06, which, in all honesty, I blame them 100%. The game was split up into 2 parts, with the latter half of it containing the first ever playable appearance by Knuckles, but by itself contains no saves feature or multiplayer to speak of. This was in part due to the stronghold that McDonald's had placed on them with their impending toy promotion. Placed alongside with the larger scope the team had for the title, it would be safe to say that the game would at least either be cut entirely on one half, or split down the middle, the latter of which would end up happening, thankfully. Sonic 3 dipped its toes into more American pop culture soon before that, as Michael Jackson... Michael fucking Jackson became involved with the creation of some of the OST's most banging tracks, which would unfortunately not be included in the second part whatsoever. This would also be the case for the Sonic & Knuckles collection on PC, which included previously made tracks that overlaid the ones Jackson had assisted with, which I'm guessing occurred since Jackson wasn't initially happy with how the Genesis crunched up his sound when listening to it from the system. So, pairing that with the less than stellar MIDI quality that the PC version had to deal with, as well as some of the legal issues Jackson was facing at the time, yeah, that shit wasn't happening. Speaking of Jackson, let's talk about a version that happened before his involvement. The prototype that was discovered back in September 2019 by DRX of Hidden Palace has quite the number of changes compared to the final product. Most notably, the character sprites. They more resemble their Sonic 2 sprites in this early version. Even Knuckles has his own little early sprite that gives him his own classic flair. That might also explain how similar some of the in-between walk sprites are to Sonic 2's in the final version. Alongside this change, this prototype also contained Mega Drive versions of the previously PC-only tracks, confirming the theory that Jackson got involved after there were already songs created for the instances he assisted on. Stuff like the mini-boss theme, Knuckles' theme, and even tracks like Ice Cap and Carnival Night were completely different, with Ice Cap especially, since that was pretty much an instrumental version of an unused Jetsons song, Hard Times, as the keyboardist for the band, Brad Buxer, was also a composer for the game. Jesus, everyone and their grandmother was composer for this game. Holy Christ! The prototype also obviously contained a lot of buggy and unfinished parts, including an intro to Angel Island where Sonic surfs on the land rather than having Tails carry him over. Many elements, such as whole zones and sprites, would be featured in the game's code, as well as its level select, though unplayable in its current state since they'd be featured in the next part. So, how would they make sure that code doesn't go to waste in a way that benefits both parts of the story? Well, my friend, you are in luck, as two little elves from Santa's workshop would soon find the answer in Lock-On Technology! The idea of locking on certain games to help supplement each other was an unprecedented one at the time, both due to the hypothetical cost and the general needlessness it would serve. Yet, despite the odds, Sega pulled through and managed to physically snap the two halves together to make a cohesive product out of both. By pairing up the Sonic & Knuckles cart with other Sonic titles on the Mega Drive, you could get some exclusive new features in the respective titles, unlike anything seen in the gaming world back then. To demonstrate, I've got an old friend hooked up on the line, so I'll give them a little call here real quick. Hey, Alan? Show these guys what's up. Hey guys, I'm recording a new tutorial for this page here, how to insert Sonic cartridge into Sonic & Knuckles. So, here's my copy of Sonic & Knuckles, here's my copy of Sonic 1 on the Genesis here. So, what you gotta do is you gotta hold the Sonic 1 cartridge up above the Sonic & Knuckles cartridge. Don't forget to flap that lid, okay? And then what? Come on, what am I doing? So and then you just stick them on top there, just like that. This is a brand new tutorial from Alan Tutorial, and you've been watching Alan Tutorial. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Alan. Now, back to the video at hand. By placing Sonic 1 on top, you get to play through different levels of the Sonic 3 special stage, Blue Sphere, with most of them being very different and much more difficult than the ones seen in preceding games. There are a ton of stages laying within, and it'd be difficult to discuss every little change made to each stage, but there is something peculiar I want to mention, and that's how pretty much any single Mega Drive cartridge, when inserted into the Sonic & Knuckles cart, pulls you into this game, with the only exception being that rather than having all the stages open to you once you press all the face buttons, you can only play the one that is assigned to the cartridge you have on at the moment. This is of course excluding games with cartridge storage sizes larger than 2 megabytes, which will instead play Sonic and Knuckles normally without accessing Blue Spear at all. This also includes jamming another copy of Sonic and Knuckles on top of it, sadly. By jamming in Sonic 2 on top, you get a special version of Sonic 2 with Knuckles. See, Sonic 2 the movie? You ain't slick! Surprisingly, there's a bit of different stuff here relating to aesthetics and presentation that may or may not have originated from Sonic 3 and translated into this game, such as a different color palette for the Act card and shields, new secrets specific to Knuckles, a more convenient way to activate Super Form, and replacing everything Sonic is on with Knuckles! The devs did a pretty good job with including him in the game like this. Even if most of the level design wasn't accounted for him, it's neat seeing him in a game that was made before his initial creation. Though it would have been cool to see his Sonic 2 sprite style make a debut here rather than a leaked prototype, just saying. Next though, is where we hit the jackpot. By jamming in Sonic 3, you get the full intended experience of both games that were split in two, now formed as one, in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. There's not really much to say about this one that hasn't been already said, since it's pretty much just the best parts of each game clobbered into one handsome package. This includes playable Knuckles in Sonic 3 stages, and by proxy, Tails in Sonic and Knuckles stages, the return of the file select and save feature, as well as the introduction of the Super Emeralds for the Sonic and Knuckles half of the game, which, when collected, turns you into your eponymous Hyper Form, allowing for extra powers such as improved speed and jump height, underwater breathing, and a special lightning attack that can be triggered by insta-shielding. Tails in particular is a force to be reckoned with, as his impending flickies of mass destruction will hone in on any enemy within close proximity, allowing for Tails to stand around while his little slaves go to work. Well boys, it's just about that time again. Time for what? Time to go ham.
Yeah! Take that, evildoer! You want some more? Oh no! I've been defeated at last! Whoa! Yeah! I did it!
That was so bad. I'm so sorry. So, that pretty much covers all the mainline Sonic titles spanning the Mega Drive's lifespan. If you're curious to hear my thoughts on the Saturn Sonic games, well, I'll just say both Sonic and Sega deserved much better. While we're on the topic of Sonic, there's something I'd like to bring up in the lieu of the next game on the radar. Between the release of Sonic 3 and Sonic Adventure, it took Sega around 4 years to finally make a major hit with gamers after their glory days on the Mega Drive. This meant the fanbase at the time was stuck with spin-off after spin-off, with the additional compilation title waited for Sonic to come out of purgatory and make a true return to form. Now, in today's age, we find that this wait has become all but common in the community. But the last mainline title, Forces, taking about 4 years to release after Sonic Lost World, and the next title taking even longer with 5 whole years to boot after Forces. Many companies like Sega, Sony, and Nintendo used to pump out games like it was nobody's business, and while quality was a major point for companies, they were also fine with churning out large quantities of spin-offs if it meant they would advertise the main course well. Nowadays, publishers rightfully play it safe with spin-offs, only being able to release around 1 or sometimes even none every year before settling back and developing the next mainline title for whatever series they may come across. All of this to say, the gaming world has definitely changed from its early years, for better and for worse. Believe it or not, Sega isn't quite the gaming titan it was back in the early 90s. Although they are still a fairly adequate and highly respectable company, they can't seem to rapid-fire out titles for the Hedgie like the good old times. Point being, although their quality with them hasn't been all too stellar as of late, Sega and Sonic Team still know what they're doing for the most part. Take Sonic the Hedgehog for example. No, not that one. The one from 2006. There we go. A game that has been bashed to death by critics and fans alike for nearly everything surrounding it. And yet, Sega themselves managed to redeem that with Sonic Unleashed 2 years later, allowing them to keep moving themselves forward both as a company and a developer. If any company like them could rise out of the ashes after that, then I have no doubt in my mind that there will come a time when Sonic comes back in full bloom, and all they really need is the right people and the right mindset to get them through it. That goes for you too, viewer. Congrats on making it this far, by the way. It means a lot to me. No matter what may happen to you in your life, there will come a time where you can truly shine and express the wonders of your mind to the rest of the world. It may take a while for that to come true. Some may take it sooner than you, but that in itself is why we live in this world. To show our colors in the way that we think is right, and however you may do it, make sure that you're enjoying every second of it. If I may quote this from the legendary Japanese Sonic 1 box art, don't sit there and waste your precious time. When you want to do something, do it right away. Do it when you can. It's the only way to live a life without regrets. I'm certainly looking forward to next year, once we get to experience the definitive version of these titles not locked to a touchscreen. With that being said, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Christian Whitehead, Simon Tomley, and all of Sonic Team and Sega for allowing these classics to flourish on once more. And, before I forget, thank you to everyone watching this video. You're seriously way past cool. Take care of yourselves, and remember to always go fast. Thanks for watching. And stay tuned while I look into the 4th installment of the classic series, released in the 2010s for Xbox, PlayStation, and even Nintendo stuff. That, of course, being Sonic Mania. What, you thought I was talking about that weird mobile game? Come on, I gotta have standards for this.